I will be teaching you how to sew a beautiful 6 pieces lace gorgeous skirt with tail. Please stay till the end of this tutorial to learn more. Thank you. Welcome back to Simrite Fashion Academy YouTube channel for another interesting tutorial. So in this tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to sew a professional 6 pieces lace skirt. As you can see right here, it has a band, it has elastic, it's well finished. If you look inside, you can see there is no seam. There is no seam. Okay, so this skirt I'm teaching you because you need to sew your skirt professionally, as you can see right here. It also has a train as well. So if this is what you want to learn in this class, I will advise you to stay to the end of this tutorial to learn the tips and tricks to making beautiful 6 pieces skirt like this. With this method, you can make your 8 pieces skirt. You can also sew your 12 pieces skirt. You can even sew your pencil skirt, having no seam inside. So this is a perfect in seam finishing tutorial you are going to learn right here. And of course, this skirt has a band, as you can see right here. I'll teach you the tips and tricks to sewing your elastic as well. Stay tuned. We are making a 6 pieces skirt. We are making a 6 pieces skirt. So this is a little sketch I have for my 6 pieces. This is the back. This is the front 6 pieces. Okay, and this is the back 6 pieces. So this front 6 pieces, you can see this is the floor length right here. That is the floor length, and this is my knee position. This is the hip position at this point, and my waist position. So now we have 1, 2, 3 panels. Okay, and another 3 panels. There will be a zip right here. Okay, we are going to have a zip here at the midline, so that makes it for the whole of these 6 pieces. So these 6 pieces, I'm going to make use of a lace fabric for it. It's going to have an interfacing or interlining and now have a lining. So I'll be showing you in details how to go about the cutting and the stitching of this skirt perfectly. So you can see it has a tail. Can you see? It has just a little tail. It's not that rounded. You can see the front is just there, but we have a tail for the back. So now to start off this tutorial, we'll be starting from the front 6 pieces cutting. So the front 6 pieces cutting, now we are going to cut the center one, which is number 2. So to cut this number 2, I will be needing my measurements for these 6 pieces. You need your round hip measurements. So the round hip measurement I'm working with here is 42 inches. Okay, so for this round hip measurement 42 inches for the front, we are working on the front. Please take notes. So this front we are working with now, I have my hip as 42. I'll simply remove 2 inches from it. Okay, and I'll be working with 40 inches. So for the front hip now, we are using 40 inches. So whatever your round hip is, remove 2 inches from it. Remove 2 inches from it for the front cutting. Okay, then when we are going over to the back, we'll go back and we'll arrive at that 42 inches. But just follow this tutorial step by step. You'll be able to have a perfect 6 pieces skirt. Okay, especially sewn with lace and interlining and a tail. So now my hip is 40 inches. Take note of that. So we want to start cutting this dress right now. So to cut this dress, I have my lace, I have my interlining, I have my lining. Okay, so now my lace fabric, I'm using 3.5 yards of lace fabric. 3.5 yards of my lace fabric, and then I'm going to, that is for the skirt, I'm using 3.5 yards because we have the the extensions for the 6 pieces. And this lace, the length is 60 inches. Okay, the length of this lace is 60 inches. So this is how the lace looks like. And from one selvage, okay, from one selvage to the next selvage, measure 60 inches. So now I'm also using a dollface satin fabric for my interlining or interfacing. So this is what I mean, because the lace is transparent, so you just need something to put under to cover the transparency, and you can see how beautiful it turned out. Then finally we'll be using our lining. So the cutting of these 6 pieces will be done on the interfacing. You can also do it on the lining anyway. So the first thing we are going to do now is to fold our fabric. We are going to fold our fabric. Remember, I told you we are going to cut first the center, which is number 2. Okay, so the length of the skirt I'm working with now, the length of my skirt I'm working from here to here is 42 inches. The first thing you are going to do is to fold. Okay, you fold your satin fabric on fold. So for the center cutting for the front. So how do you determine how much you fold? Okay, so the center front, I always like to fold it at 13 inches. Can you see? At 13 inches. So that 13 inches has to be what? Equal from length from the upper to the down part. So I just want to cut that 13 inches out, okay, from my dollface satin fabric, because it's actually wobbling and I want to minimize the wobbling. Alright, so once you have cut it out, this part has to be on fold, and this is what we have at this other end. So the first thing we are going to take is the measurement of the length of this skirt. So the length of this skirt, I'm adding an elastic band of 1 inch. So I'll just place the 1 inch at the tip right here. Okay, then I'll go ahead and measure my hip circumference, my hip length. So my hip length is 9 inches for me. So it's usually between 8 and 9 inches. My knee length is 22 inches. I'll count 1, 2, 3, 4. Some people can also use 3 inches after their knee, but I like to use 18 inches. In fact, the standard is within 17 and 18 inches for your knee length for any skirt. Okay, because it does not need to be at the knee position, so you'll be able to walk. So now I'll keep placing my tape to my length of my skirt. The length of my skirt is 42 inches, but I added extra 4 inches to it. So this extra 4 inches is for in case you are wearing a heel, because this piece is not supposed to be hanging. It's supposed to flow on the floor. So with 4 inches, that is okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, both for stitching allowance and the heel allowance. So now I'm going to mark out my lines which I've created. My knee line at 18 inches and my hip line at 9 inches. So once you have marked, this is the center front, we will start imputing our horizontal measurement. So I've already made some points here and I want to show you how I did that. So on the waist, you are going to use your bust span nipple to nipple measurement. My nipple to nipple measurement is 9. That is what I'm working with. Half of it is 4.5. I'll place it at the center here and add half an inch to it. That is 5 inches. Okay, that is how I got this mark. Now on the hip, my nipple to nipple is divided by 2 is still 4.5. On the hip, I'll add 1 inch, which is 5.5 for the hip line. Then on the knee line, you simply place your nipple to nipple at 4.5. Don't add anything to it. Okay, so now we are going to connect these lines from the waist. So I'll bring in my pattern ruler this way and connect to the hip. Then I'll turn it this way and connect to the knee according to our exact measurement. Okay, so we have both our seam allowance to it. So after that is done, the next thing is to connect from these lines now to the extension of 13 inches. So I'll just go ahead and draw my line to the extension of the 13 inch. Alright, so this is what I have. So you can see that beautiful shape we are looking for our 6 pieces. So this shape is actually very beautiful. So if you look at the waistline, you can see that the waist is your nipple plus half, nipple to nipple, half of it plus half an inch. This is nipple to nipple plus 1 inch, okay? And this is exactly your nipple to nipple measurement. So with this, you connect it to the extension. So on this extension, I'll just go ahead and come up from here by 1 inch, so we don't have that pointy shape on our 6 pieces. So I'll just place my pattern ruler this way. Can you see that? All right, so I'll just trim off what I have here carefully. So this is how it's going to look like for the center one. So we'll be using this pattern you are seeing right here, this beautiful 6 pieces pattern. We'll use it to cut out the sides. We're going to cut out the other side right now. So to cut out the other side, this is the right side. So I'm going to place it on the wrong, the front, the second piece we just cut out on the wrong side, okay? So once that is done, I bring in that one. This is it, the center one, and I'll be placing the folded part in this side. Just watch what I'm doing. I'll bring it to the length and make sure it matches up with the length, okay? So arrange it to match up very well. Then you can secure with your pin. So make sure you secure with your pin at every time. So I'm going to pin before I cut. So I'll pin it now. So after securing it with your pins, next is to cut out the side. So I'll just cut the sides this way. Then you also cut out I'm going to extend the waistline. I'll also extend it, and the knee line, I'm going to extend it. So that is where we are going to have all our necessary calculations. All right, so now I've extended the knee line, hip line, and the waistline. So you need to have all these extensions after trimming this shape. So I'll just take off my pins now and reposition the center skirt, okay? So I reposition the center. Now I'm going to position this line after extending my lines, and I've taken off the pattern. So I'll now come back and position it back on the knee line, okay, to the waistline. So I'll just start from the waistline. So you just overlap it, overlap the waistline a little bit by 0.5. So we'll be able to take our necessary measurement. So I'll just overlap and pin, just the seam allowance, that is what I'm overlapping. So because of the shape we have here, you will not have it lay straight, so that's why I have to pin, so we'll be able to take the measurement of the complete waist. So I'll just take the measurement of the waist and the hip measurement and connect before we jump into the knee position. All right, so this is the waist, and you can see I've overlapped a little bit, just a little bit at 0.5. Don't do too much of it. So here I'll the measurement after pinning and overlapping by just 0.5. So make sure you overlap here is exactly at 0.5. You can see it there. Okay, so now I'm going to measure my hip. I will start from my hip measurement. So my hip measurement now, remember I told you we'll be working with 40 inches for the front. Okay, then later at the back we'll work with our actual hip circumference, which is 42. So this 40 inches divided by 4 will give me 10 inches. So I'll place my 10 inches at the center front this way, and then I'm going to mark my 10 inches. So once I mark my 10 inches, I'll add 1.5 inch, making it 11.5 inch. That is for my seam allowance. So now everything I have from here, from that point to the center front, is 11.5. Can you see that? So this 11.5, I'm going to take away 0.5 inch because I'm using an elastic band for the waist. So simply go ahead and place your, take away 0.5 inch from 11.5. Here I have 11 inches, and I'm going to do what? Mark. So once I've marked that, I'll come back with my pattern ruler, place it this way, and then I'm going to do what? Connect from the hip to the waist this way. So next I'll come back to the knee. So you know we have a figure 8 shape for this part. So I'll come in again on the knee line, overlap it a little bit by 0.5. That is the stitching allowance. So once I overlap, I'll secure with my pin so it does not move. So on the knee line now, we are going to take the measurement of that 11.5 that we have on the front. That 11.5 we have on the front, if you remember, 11.5 total. We are going to take off 1.5 from 11.5, okay, because that part needs to be fitted. So if you want it actually very fitted, you can take away 2 inches from 11.5. But for me, this is 11.5. I'll take away 1.5. So the knee line will be at 10 inches. So I'll place my 10 inches on the knee this way, and I'm going to do what? I'll go ahead and mark my 10 inches. So once I've done that, I'll come back with my ruler, place the biggest part on the hip, and then I'll position it this way. From that point, I'll just go this way. Okay, so I'll just go this way to the hem. So now after that, the next thing I'm going to do is to come over to the hem. So on this hem part, you note that we have 13 inches on one side when it's on fold. So when you open it, you have 26. So I simply take off the first part and just measure from end to end 26 inches. 26. So this is my 26 inches. I'll make a mark to it. Then I'll come in with my ruler this way and point it to the knee. So this is the knee line. I'll just come from here and point it to the knee. So from that knee line now, I'm going to place my pattern ruler, and I'll just go ahead and mark out that extension from the knee. Okay. All right, so don't forget to come up on the knee line at all times by 1 inch, so that part is not pointy. So I just place it this way. So that's how we are going to cut it out now. So I'll now go ahead and remove what I have on the center front area. This is what I have. Head and cut it from that point. So once I get to the knee, I'll just go straight to the and now I'll go ahead and cut off that 1 inch. So we are done. So after cutting, this is what you will have. Okay, so what you have here, remember we cut it at the wrong side. So to cut out the other side of it, which is we cut number 1, so we want to cut out number 3 now. So that means I'm going to place my fabric this way, and I'll have to bring my main fabric this way. So make sure you note the part that is the wrong side. So this is actually the wrong side of this fabric. So you just place a mark to identify the wrong side. Then I'll bring in what I have right here, wrong side to wrong side. I'll place them, kissing them this way, okay, and arrange it appropriately at this point. So I'll just go ahead now and cut out this shape. So we are done with the front. All right, so now I've cut it out, and this is what I have. So now you need to make a notch so you'll be able to know the part you are going to sew at the end of the day. So note that our allowance was 1.5, so I'll just come in and measure that 1.5, which is my seam allowance, and I'll do what? I'll create a notch. So I'll be using this notch to identify the side of this dress, because by the time we start sewing now, you confuse yourself with which part will be on the side and all that. So we are done with this, and I'll set it aside. For the back, you need your fabric unfold too. Okay, so we are doing the center back, which is number 5 on our drawing. This part, that's what we are going to cut out now, and it's going to have a tail. So like I earlier said, we are using the center front to cut the center back as well. So the first thing you do is to place your fabric on fold and ensure that the length, the width of your fabric you have on fold is from the folded point, you have it at 20 inches. Okay, unless you want the tail to be longer than what we have here. So 20 inches, so when you open it, you have 40 inches. So that is standard for it. So now the next thing I'll do, from this hemline, I'm going to come up with the tail. I don't want the tail too much, so it depends on how much or how low you want the tail to be. So the tail, I'll just measure from here at 4.5 inches. Okay, so that I'll use 1/2 inch to sew in the seam allowance. So I have 4.5 inches, and this, I'll mark my line. So this line now is going to serve as my hem line. So I'll come back with my skirt. This is my skirt now. This skirt part is the one for center front, which we have cut. So all I will do is to do what? Align this line. I'll just align it this way. Can you see? This way. I'll make sure this part touches here. So you remember we came up by 1 inch, so it will also take its course. So I'll keep it straight now and pin. So I'll pin it. Then this is what I have. Remember, we stepped up by 4.5 and aligned it, so you have to make sure everything aligns this way. So this is the center front, which is on a straight course. So I'll come over here now, which is the hip, and I'm going to make an extension of my hip on the center front and on this side. Okay, so on the side I'll add 1/2 inch. Okay, so we are bringing back the 2 inches for boot allowance. You can see the 2 inches for boot allowance, so I brought it back. Remember, we took it away when we are having the front drafted, so I'm adding that 2 inches by sharing 1/2 inch from this side, 1/2 inch, and here I'll add 1/2 inch. Okay, all right. So once that is done, I'll go ahead and do what on the hip. I'll connect back what I have on the hip. From that 1/2 inch, I'll connect it back to the waist, and I'll come back here and connect it back to the knee. So you can see how I'm placing my ruler to connect that. So can you see? So that is that boot allowance we added, butt allowance. So this 1/2 inch now, on this center front line, we are going to have a zipper. So my zipper allowance, I'm going to use 1.5 inch for my zipper allowance. Then from here I'll add 1.5 inch for my zipper allowance, and from here I'll add 1.5 inch for zipper allowance. So in other words, on the hip now we have 2 inches because of this 1/2 inch. So I will extend the line of this to that point, and then from that knee line, from the waistline, this is my waist, I'll create that mark, come in with my pattern ruler this way and connect the lines. I'll turn my pattern ruler this way to have the butt allowance and connect it. Okay, all right. So now I will take what I have here from that 1.5 inch on the hem, and I'm going to add the tail. So it depends on how long you actually want your tail to be. Okay, it depends on how you want the tail, but I don't actually need the tail much at the back. So that is why from this center front, everything I added extra was 7 inches. Okay, so you can go ahead and add 9 inches. That is to say, when you place this fabric on fold, instead of having 20 inches, you have 22. So it depends on how much you want that part to flay. So now, after connecting it, the next thing we'll do is to follow what we have here exactly on this part. We'll direct it to the, can you see? So I'm not using my pattern ruler here. I'm freehanding it because I know my pattern ruler might not give me exactly the shape I want. So I'll just take it to match up to what I have here. Can you see? So that makes that tail for you. While from here we'll cut to our knee. Okay, so if I'm cutting it now, I'll just try to make if you have a straight ruler, fine and good. With a straight ruler, you will just place here and do this. Can you see? So that part is not bulky or bulging. So I think I got it even with this short ruler this way. So I'll go ahead to cut what I have right here, because that is all we need on this pattern. So I'll start from here. I'll cut this side following the shape I have already. So once I get to the knee, I'll follow the chalk line. Can you see? That is for the back. Then once I get here, I'll go ahead and then I'll go ahead and cut the zipper allowance. Once I get to the knee, I'll just follow the extension line for the tail. So I'll just cut it. I'm just cutting it to the tail extension. So this is what we have right here, as you can see. Now I'll come over here and cut out the tail. So you can see the tail extension right now from here to here. So here will be the center back. Okay, so now the next thing I'll do is just to place a notch. You know, this is a zipper allowance. Always place your notch at all times. So the zipper allowance is 1.5. So I'll just go ahead and do what? Place my notch. So the back is ready now and the center front is ready. So I'll just keep the both together this way. We'll use whatever we have here to cut both the lace, the lining, everything before we proceed to the sewing. So I'm going to cut the side of the skirt now. We want to cut this other side for the back. That is the side of the back, and I brought back the front side. Okay, we have 2 of them. So I'll just place that front side. I'll place it on top of my fabric. Okay, I'll place it on top of my fabric this way. So I'll just arrange it very well. So your arrangement has to start from the hem. So you have to make sure you arrange it. So now I've placed the front side on top of my fabric, and now I'm going to extend the knee. So this is the knee position, if you remember. So on this is the side. Remember, that was where we added 1.5 to sew the side. So you are going to add on the hip line. I'll extend the hip line. We are going to add back our 2 inches, okay, for the back. Remember, we are adding it on the hip, only on the hip. So I'll add 1/2 inch only on my hip. So I'll connect it, just the same thing I did for the center center back. So I'm doing this addition only at the back. Then I'll place my ruler back to the knee line this way. That is for the butt allowance. Okay, so now everything remains the same, just only this adjustment. So I'm going to cut out what I have right here. So make sure you position this part very well before you cut. So I'll just go ahead and cut. So I'll follow the chalk line. So once I get to that part, I'll just cut off. I'm done cutting. Okay, so I will take off what I have on the back. So this is the side. Note that you still need to make your 1.5 inch notch, okay, to identify the side. So you have to do this at all times. So I'll take off the front side, and I will use what I have right here to cut out the back, the other part of the back. So this is it. I will turn it and mark the wrong side. Then I'll get my fabric once again. I'll just place it this way, and identify the back. So I'm repeating what I did when I cut the other side. So if this is the back, I'll place it this way and cut exactly the back. And also make sure you write back side, because when joining this, we need to join this back to the back center front. So I use BB to note the side of the back. So I'm going to place this and cut out now. We'll go ahead and start sewing. I've cut out the back, okay, the side of that back I told you, where I told you to write BB. Can you see? So that is, I used one to cut the other, and I use this same pattern for the side for the back to cut the lace. I use it to cut my lining. Everything is equal. So this is what I did for every other pieces I have. I used the doll face pattern to cut the lace and the lining. Can you see? And I also made my notches. Make sure you have your notches. But for the lace part, instead of making a notch, because the lace you might not really see the notch, just use your chalk to identify the zip, the side. Okay, so when we are going to sew our 1.5 inch, we'll follow it accordingly. So I'll set this aside. We want to start sewing right away. So I'm going to start up my sewing from the center front. So here from the front, so we are sewing all fronts, then we'll now sew all back. Have the two of them together, then we'll start coupling them. So now this is my center front unfold. I have the lace, I have the doll face, I have the lining. So I'll keep the lining aside, okay? I'll keep it one side. Open up what I have on my doll face. Place my lace. And you see, so I'll just go ahead and place my lace accordingly. So what I usually like to do when working on laces is, instead of going over to the machine to start stitching my lace to my fabric, that's putting them together and start sewing, sometimes I don't really find it professional. So I just do this, apply my Uhu gum just at the edge. Okay, just at the edge. I didn't say apply all over, just at the edge. So this Uhu gum I've applied on this edge now, or any fabric gum. This is Uhu gum. So any one of them, just go ahead and do what? Place your lace at that edge. So what I did on this edge, I'm going to also do it on the other edge too. So this is easier for me to put them together, so then going over to stitch and all that. So I'll just put it together. So that little gum I put there will just place your lace for you. So you can see that part is already placed. Next is to lift this part up, come back with the gum again, and just apply at the edge this way to the end. So this is what I'm going to do for all the doll face lace parts. So it's the right side I'm using. Please don't use the wrong side. This is the wrong side and this is my right side. So use the right side of it and place your lace accordingly. So once you keep it, it takes its natural position and we are good to go. I'll still lift this part and repeat the same thing. So I'm going to do that for all of my laces now, then we'll proceed to the sewing. You can see I've joined everything, okay, at 1/2 inch. So I have my full front now. You can see if I have my full front, and I've joined my lining too. So here I have my full front for lining as well. So I'll now go ahead to assemble the back pattern. So this is the back pattern. I have lining and fabric. I'll separate lining and I'll bring in the center front. So this is the center front. I'll also separate lining from it, the center back I mean. So I'll take away the lining because I'm working on the bodies right now, on the fabric now. So this is it. So I hope you notched the zipper part. So this notch shows the zipper. So I like to first join my zipper position first, okay? So I love to sew the center back where I have the zipper first, okay? So here is my notch for my zipper, as you can see. So now I'm going to take the measurement of my zipper, okay? And then I'll leave this part open, and I'll sew to the end. All right, so now I'm going to take the measurement of this is my center back. I'll put my zip together, my two panels together, and mark the position of my zipper. So I'm just marking it exactly at where I have this iron part. So I'm using a short zipper, notch at the knee line. All right, so now I'm done with the skirt. As you can see, this is the upper part of the skirt right here. I've added my zipper, so the skirt is actually very full, finished right now. So you can see I've joined every bit of it. Okay, so this is a full fabric skirt, and this is the lining. I've joined everything too. So what we are trying to achieve here is a perfect inseam finishing where there is no seam on this skirt, okay? So you are learning the professional way of making skirts, a 6-piece skirt. So here you can see I've joined everything. I have only the zipper, okay, open, because we'll sew it in a way we are not going to see the seam. So the next thing we want to do now is to mark out our tummy drop. So if you see here, notice here, you can see that the front skirt, you can see, is straight. So you need to add your tummy drop so the skirt sits well on your tummy. So I'm going to match the seam lines. These are the seam lines. I'm going to match them. Of course, when you match them, the darts will be at the same position. Can you see? That is the center 6-piece line. So I'll just arrange it very well, secure with my pin. Okay, so once that is done, I'm going to cut the tummy drop. So for the tummy drop, I'll come to the center front. I'm going to drop my tummy by 1 inch. So once I mark the 1 inch, I'll come in with this part of my ruler, and I'm going to slant it. Can you see how I kept it? So I'll just go ahead and do what? And make my tummy drop mark to the same line. So this is how the tummy drop line will look like, okay? So when you are doing this, make sure you secure it with your pin. So it will be in this form, and I'm going to trim that part out. So what I did here, I'm going to repeat it again. The tummy drop, I'm going to do exactly the same thing on the lining. So I'm doing this on the front. Please take note, that's where we have the tummy. So I'll just cut off the tummy drop. Can you see? I've cut it out. So this makes your skirt balance accordingly. So I just make little notch at the center front, because we'll use this notch for the sewing of the band. So I repeat the same tummy drop cutting for the lining now, then I'll tell you. So after cutting the both tummy drops, the next thing is to reduce the lining. I am reducing the lining by 0.5 inch. Done cutting off the half an inch all around, so I've reduced the lining by half an inch. So the next thing I'm going to do is to bring in the skirt piece now. So I will open up the zipper, okay, then I will bring in the lining. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to insert this. I'm going to do right side to right side of it. So you can just hold a pin to it, right side to right side of the lining and of the fabric. So I'll secure it with my pin now. Okay, so you have to do that right side to right side on the zipper area. Secure with your pin. You bring in this, secure with your pin. This is just to hold it down, so we'll be able to sew the down part. So once you have done this, you open up the skirt, put in your hand just to turn the right side inside, because we want to get everything to the back. That is what we are doing here. Can you see that? So we've gotten everything to the back now, matching appropriately. Can you see? So everything is matching appropriately. So you position the center front with the center front. Just hold it down with a pin. So we'll hold it down with a pin. So now we have the whole skirt this way. Can you see? So we have right side to right side. So I'll start holding down the skirt accordingly from one seam to the other. So I'll just go over to the center back, which is where I have the zipper. This is the center back. This is the center back. I'll pick it up and I'm going to kiss it on the center back of the fabric this way. So I'll hold it down with my pin. Then I'll go to my machine and sew round all around and top stitch. So I'm going to do that now. As I pin here, I'll start my sewing at the center back. I'll be arranging, I'll be sewing half an inch, I'll be sewing half an inch till I return back here. Then I'll open it up and top stitch. I'll remove this pin so I'll be able to top stitch very well. Give it a good press with my hemming gum. So I will also advise you sew with your hemming gum. So that means I will place my hemming gum like this, and I'll be sewing half an inch. I'll take my time. So by the time I iron the down length appropriately with this hemming gum, it sticks very well. It sticks it sticks very well for you. So I'll do that all around till I get to the end. Now I've sewn my hemming gum all over the hem line, and I've top stitched and ironing. So now I'm done ironing, and this is what I have. Can you see? So everything lays nice and flat and perfect. Can you see? So you need your hemming gum. You can even insert more hemming gum from the waistline, okay, in, so you have it lay very nice and flat for you. So now we want to go over to the attaching of the zipper. So to attach this zipper is very simple. So you can see the inside is neat, there's no seam at all. So I'll just simply do this. Can you see what I'm doing? This is how it is, seam line to seam line. I'll match it, take this up to this point, hold it down, open up here, and go over to mine. I can secure with pins too. You can secure with pins if you want. So I'll just secure with pins in a way I can sew on top of my pin. So I'll just match the seam lines this way and hold it down this way. So I'll go to my machine now with my zipper foot. So when you are sewing, always sew with your zipper foot, okay? So this is what the zipper foot looks like. So I'm going to change my presser foot. I'll use my zipper foot and follow these stitches, okay? I'll follow the part that I'm seeing my stitches, and I'll end it where the zipper ends. Then do the same for the other side. So I'm done sewing my zipper right now. So I'm taking round my waist measurement to cut my band. One side 0.5 inch, okay, that's the only way you can have a neat finishing. Then 0.5 inch on the end and 0.5, just use your iron and fold it in, okay? So this is how everything will look like at the end of the day. So now we'll be sewing this part to the skirt now. So after that, the next thing is to go over to the machine to sew. Now I'm going to start from the beginning this way, okay? So this is where I'm going to sew now. I'll go ahead and sew around. That's what I have after sewing the band. So make sure you sew the band at ½ inch from end to end, okay? From end to end you sew at ½ inch. So the next thing we are going to do now, you will see this is the side seam of the skirt. So let me put the skirt together because now we want to add the elastic. So adding the elastic, I have to, this is the side and this is the zipper. From one joining to the other joining, I'll open it up from joining to joining and take the measurement I have on those joinings. So from here to here, whatever figure I have, I'll divide it by 2. So here I have 9.5, so I'll just divide it by 2 and get the midpoint. So my elastic is at 4.75. So I'll now cut my elastic. This is how the elastic looks like. It's 1 inch elastic. So I'm going to cut 9 inches so that by the time I put it together, I'll have 4.5. What I have here is 9 inches elastic, okay? So don't drag it, make sure you have 9 inches. So this 9 inches, I'll put it halfway this way and cut it out. So one part of this elastic will be for one side. Stick right now, we are going to attach it to the dress. So to attach it to the dress, this is what the band is going to look like. In fact, remember, you have to face it the right way, right side to the wrong side or to the lining before you stitch this 0.5. So now I'll put it this way. This is the zipper, which is the center back, and this is the center front, and this is the 2 joining we took our measurement. So I'll now go ahead and open up this band, okay? Make sure you position it well. Can you see? It has to be centralized. You are going to centralize your band, your elastic, and then, okay, so you have to pin it, so because you are going to stitch on it, so you can just go ahead and stitch before you drag to these parts, okay? So exactly at that joining. So I'll go over to the machine now. I'm going to top stitch as many times as possible to keep it in place. Okay, so I'll also do the same for this other part. I'll also centralize it and pin it like that. So now you can see how I stitched it. You can see my stitches. I made sure I centralize it. You can see the crease line on the edge of the band, so you need to actually centralize it and top stitch. And I did the same, as you can see. So it has to be at the edge. So now we are going over to the machine to sew. So this is how we are going to sew. Of course, I'll show you how to sew these parts of the elastic. So I'll go over now. I'm going to put this together this way and top stitch. So as I'm sewing, I'll be dragging the elastic. Can you see? So now, like I demonstrated on the table, you need to actually iron this to make this work easy for you. So I'll just put them together very neatly this way. So I'm just trying to ensure I have it put together. So I'll drop my presser foot there. What I'm doing now is top stitching. Okay, so I'll be top stitching very closely and neatly. So you can see what I have there, close and neat. So I'll keep top stitching and placing. You can see, so it has to, your top stitching. I'm zooming my camera for you to see, because you actually need to see what I'm talking about. You can see the top stitches is very close to the band. Okay, so coming over to where we have this elastic, I'm going to drag it. I'm going to drag it as I'm sewing. So as I'm sewing, I'll be dragging it. As I'm sewing, I'll be dragging it. So make sure you drag it to take the former position we had before. So I'm going to sew to the end right now. So I've sewn to the end, and this is the extension of 1 inch which we added. So that is going to be for the hook and eye. So I'll just stitch at that point. I'll just make a stitch, as you can see. Then I'll also stitch the other part too. Then I'll come to the center of my elastic band from where I have the stitch. I'll just centralize my, so I'll centralize my, I'm sewing right on the elastic. That's exactly what I'm doing. So I'll keep my, from this point, I'll centralize my machine, my presser foot. I'll top stitch, then sew straight. I'm sewing straight on the elastic. So you also have to stretch and sew. So once I get to where I have the stitching, I'll also back stitch. So I'll repeat the same thing for the other parts, and we are done with this plan. Alright, so now we are done with this beautiful skirt tutorial. So you can see the band lays very beautifully well, front and back, and the zipper. So I'll be getting my skirt hook now to attach to it this way. Can you see? So now the purpose of this tutorial is to show you how to sew a full lining with perfect inseam finishing. And I believe this class was very helpful. So